Hey, so if you remember back in last December, I had a video out. You can find it on the channel around don't quitting. I told you not to quit. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to a client and she was telling me she was a new client. So she was going back through some of my content and she finally got to this video and she had wanted to mention to me as we were working how much she really appreciated that video. And so you can find that video on, I've thought, well, it's about time, it's 6 months later. I think it's about time that we have another candid conversation of encouraging words and seeing where you are now. We are almost halfway through, by the time I release this video, halfway through 2026. 2025, I know was hard for a lot of female founders. And now we're halfway through 2026. And I just want to say, hey, if for those of you out there who did not quit on that, on yourself, congratulations. Congratulations to you because you didn't quit. And look, we're 6 months from when I made that video and you're still here. You're still working. You're still finding ways to prove your business is bigger than you quitting. So I want to talk about that. When I say don't quit, sometimes you think that, all right, that means, okay, I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to use my willpower. Maybe that's fine for the first month of doing this, but to get to month 6 now, that's the real version of not quitting. So what's happened to you in these last months? Let me know in the comments. What have you been up to? Sometimes when I do some of these videos, I'm talking to myself as well. And so it's finding who you are. I've actually had another meeting with some business buddies of mine recently, and we were talking about where we are. We do goal setting. And we were looking at our goals for the first half of this year and seeing, did we hit any of these goals? Like, where are we now? And one thing that I know that we've had to do, and I'm sure you've had to do it, and in these, what I call turbulent times that we have right now, there's got to be a lot of pivoting, right? The art of the pivot is what makes entrepreneurs successful. So if you're a business owner, you got to learn how to pivot. You become a master of pivoting. And for me, as a marketer in the digital marketing space, I am a master at pivoting. Anybody who says that they're an expert in marketing, we're an expert in pivoting because things change all the time. And for those of you who are like an expert in AI, great. AI 6 months ago was totally different from what it is today. So you become a master in pivoting. What can you do to pivot and still move forward? Because a series of pivots, you could be staying in one place, but how to pivot and move forward, I think is give yourself a hand for doing that. Some people, they don't quit. They just kind of grit their teeth and just kind of still suffer through it. And right now, it's not that we don't suffer. I think any small business owners has to grind sometimes, but we don't really necessarily have to suffer through it and have this hustle harder mentality and then work on that same problem that you may have had year over year. It's the same problem, the same issue. That's something that what they say about what's the recipe of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. And we can't do that. We have to make the pivots. We have to make the changes. So I would love to hear from you and what some of the things that you're doing to pivot and to make those changes in your business. I know sometimes maybe when you do make a change, you're not quitting, but you're just really reevaluating and you're ending maybe a chapter. Maybe you did do the hustle hard. I know I was hustling hard and I did that for a long time. Now, I'm not saying my hustle is soft, but it's not as hard as it used to be. I wanted to make that decision. I wanted to focus on not only my business, but also focusing on my health, focusing on getting a good night's sleep and my sanity and understanding why am I doing this? Why am I working hard? What is the real reason that I am growing and enjoying my business? What are some of those things that I said I wanted to do, but I never got to it? And I'm really making a lot of time for that this year. You also got to be proud of what you built. Maybe you think it's on a sandy or shallow foundation, but be proud that you went out there and you built it. I don't know if you've noticed. I've seen a lot of it lately, especially in social media. Since I'm in there a lot with some of my clients, I've seen a lot of social media that's helping people start a business, right? Because right now, everybody needs a little extra money just to make it through the month. And so starting a business and what you can do to take those skills that you already have and create something new with that for someone and utilize that and make money from it. So I've seen a bunch of those videos out there, and I think I put a video out there like how not to get scammed. That's somewhere also on my channel too. But you see a lot of them that's starting a business. So I think you should applaud yourself that you didn't quit and you're not starting a business. You are working it through. Now, some of you, I'm gonna talk to the group of you. I'm gonna call you my pandemic besties. I started my business right before the pandemic. I went full time. I've always had a hustle, always did consulting on the side, always did something like that. But right before the pandemic, fall of 2019 is when I officially just launched full time into my business, right? And then the pandemic hit, right? So fall of 2019, and then what, March of 2020, the world changed, right? And here I am, I run my business. But as a digital marketer, the pandemic did well for me because people were looking for ways to go online because the world had closed down. So they needed that. So I steadily gained clients during that time. But at that time, there was a lot of people who also lost their job, right? A lot of women who had to stop working because they didn't have childcare or they lost it. So they had to make things happen. And right now we're in 2026. It's 6 years later. This is an interesting time for a lot of people in terms of running their business. You're 6 years in, maybe you're 5 years in. I want to talk to y'all. You're 5 years in, and maybe you're saying to yourself, you're tired. Maybe it's not what you wanted to do, or maybe you're tired of doing this type of life, but you feel stuck. You feel trapped. You're in it. Don't quit. All you have to do is make the minor pivots. Pivot to something that you want. Pivot to something that you can do and tolerate. And put some timelines on it, as opposed to just saying, no, I'm going to give this up. Let me see if I can go back and try to find a 9 to 5, or let me try to find something. Right now, this is not the market. This is not the time to try to find 9 to 5s. The job market is tight right now. So you're going to have to make it work. And I think a lot of us are doing that. A lot of you are doing that. Maybe you're just trying to get through the day. But I want you to just try to do this without having to push harder. I want you to reframe it a little bit. And finally, let's look at what you are really doing. Why quitting isn't a strategy. It's really a starting point. Let me ask the question, because a lot of people want to quit because they're not making money. Brass tacks, basics, right? But why you're not making money? Exactly what is happening? Why you're losing money? Why does it seem like you may have had a very successful client, or you sold a product, get a good deal on a contract, and yet you're losing money? Whenever you meet with a bookkeeper, or you should be meeting with a bookkeeper, but you just don't want to know the truth about what's happening, you can have this amazing cash flow. But at the end of the day, if your margins are not, if you're not making any profit, you're just trudging along and you're not quite negative, but you sure isn't positive to where you need to be. That's when you really want to quit. But what most people don't know what's happening there when that happens. You're trudging along, but at the end of the month, you may be net positive. It's not to the point where you can slow down or you can hire some people to help you with it. It's just a struggle. Most people don't know that. And that's where something is off. And you need to really figure out what is it that's going on here. And maybe you've tried. Maybe you've tried to figure it out. Maybe you've tried to get the funding and that has fallen through. It's really not about pushing harder. Like I said, hustle harder. It's not about that. It's about really understanding where you are right now and putting a name on it. That's the reframe. What you should be doing to name it. Something that you should be doing differently. That's what you need to think about. That's where you are right now. If you refuse to quit, like you're doing right now, and you don't really know why your business is not succeeding outside of you can't find customers. Customers are not converting. It's not a try harder problem for sure. And I have what I call like the revenue gap finder. It's a free quiz. I'll put the link below. It takes a few minutes, but it'll definitely give you a name to what's going on with your business, what you should be thinking in your business right now. You're not quitting. So you really love what you do. You're trying, and maybe you've tried a number of different things, but if you use my little gap finder, it should take probably maybe 3 minutes to finish. It will tell you exactly what you need to be doing right now, the first thing you need to be doing. So that way, when I do reach out and I'll have another video in 6 months from now, you'll know exactly okay, here's what's happened in this last 6 months. Here's what I've done with my business and what now? Try to prove me wrong. And then also, if you like this type of content, then go ahead and subscribe. I am trying to get my message out to as many people as possible. And this only can happen if you like, turn on your post notification, and subscribe to my channel. Marketing Money Moves. I'm trying to move your money with marketing strategies and techniques. So just remember, if you are still with me, you didn't quit, pat yourself on the back, and let's try to dig in deeper. Maybe you've tried a few things from my last video, and maybe those are sticking, or maybe that you want to try something different things, or you really want to know what is the core issue you're dealing with. Just use the Revenue Finder, and that will help you. So just remember this. 6 months ago, I told you not to quit, and I'm telling you the same thing today. But now I want you to know exactly what you're fighting for. You built something real. So let's go and find it. Find out how you can make this a legacy, a sustainable legacy where you're not pulling your hair out. Take care and see you in the next video.